Alright, all you hockey card fans, welcome back to the channel. Went back to Heroes Cards and Comics because this is my go-to place and it's really close to home and prices are not bad. And picked up 15 hockey cards from Heroes and a binder, and a huge binder at Villains. Let's go with the Heroes first. Now these are all from the 1974 O-PEE-CHEE set. So it's a 73-74 stat year. It's when Philadelphia Flyers won their first Stanley Cup. They beat the Boston Bruins in the final. Montreal had been the defending champion, but since Dryden retired prematurely, or took a year off, depending on how you look at it, Montreal just didn't have the goaltending like they used to. So one of those what could have beens. Anyway, let's get started. We have, for the Detroit Red Wings, right winger Pierre Jarry. Looks like he's a little airbrushed there. This card's not in bad shape. Pierre Jarry had once been a first round 12th overall pick in the 69 draft. He won 2 Central Hockey League titles with the Omaha Knights. Only played 34 games with the Rangers before getting traded to Toronto. Spent parts of 2 seasons with Toronto before getting traded to Detroit, and then would go on to the Minnesota North Stars, and finally he actually played with the Edmonton Oilers in 77-78. Was he worth a first round pick? Not really. 344 games, had 205 points, and in 5 NHL playoff games only 1 point. So not exactly a home run first rounder, but the draft was not as well formed as it is today. So for this card, he'd actually been traded in November from the Toronto Maple Leafs to Detroit Red Wings for Tim Eggleston. Then later Detroit traded him to Minnesota for Don Martineau. So I'm going to say Toronto won the deal with Tim Eggleston. I don't know what Detroit was thinking. Like he had 15 goals in his first year with Detroit, and only 8 in the second before going back to the minors. So not exactly a household name. Next up, I was surprised to find this in the normal box. This one cost me about $5. We have Boston Bruins center Phil Esposito. I was very surprised to find this in with all the common cards. So I picked it up, scooped it up right away. The card's in really good shape. Other than it's in pretty good shape. Even the cut job's not bad. Little at the top cut. Phil Esposito had obviously won 2 Stanley Cups with the Boston Bruins. For that year, he had 68 goals, 77 assists for 145 points in only 78 games. Now, of course, Gretzky would shatter these records, but for a 5-year period, Phil Esposito was scoring on average 62 goals, roughly. He had 76, 66, 55, 68, and 61 goals over a 5-year period. Only Gretzky has come close to that. 5 straight 100-point seasons. I remember he's only playing 78, 76 games a season. When they won their first Stanley Cup in 1970 and they played a full 80 games, he probably would have hit 100 points again for the 7th straight year. Before Gretzky came around, he was the leader in goals and points in the NHL. Then he went to the New York Rangers, where he had some success, but not as much as he did in Boston. So a great player, Hall of Famer. Happy to get him. Next up for the Boston Bruins, we have left winger Wayne Cashman. This card's not in so great of shape. There is a crease down here in the card. Cashman was in Hodge and Esposito formed one of the best lines in hockey at the time. He is not in the Hall of Fame. I always thought Cashman made it to the Hall of Fame. Played his entire career with the Boston Bruins, over 1,000 games, 277 goals, 793 points, with 1,000 penalty minutes. So wasn't afraid to rough it up. 105 playoff games. He had 31 goals, 57 assists for 88 points, 250 penalty minutes. So he was a big part of the 70s Bruins. And we have our first rookie card, right winger Dennis Ververgert. Cannot pronounce his name to save my life. Gotta love the hair and the mustaches and, The style of the 70s was just unreal. Some of the stuff you saw. But Vergert had been a first round, third overall draft pick by the Vancouver Canucks in the 73 amateur draft. And he'd actually been picked in the 6th round, 67th overall, by the New York Golden Blades, who later became the Jersey Knights in the 73 WHA draft. So he was courted by them as well. Not a bad player, but not a great player. They probably could have got someone better back then. But he did play before going to the Flyers in a trade, and then ended his career with the Capitals. So he got traded from Vancouver Canucks to Philadelphia Flyers for Kevin McCarthy and Drew Callender. I have their card, Dennis Vergert, when he goes over to the Flyers, and Kevin McCarthy when he goes to Vancouver. So I have that card. And I have his last card when he goes to Washington. Not bad. 583 games, 176 goals. 8 playoff games, only 1 goal. Was he worth a first-round pick? Probably not. There's probably other guys that were better. All right, next up we have St. Louis Blues right winger Phil Roberto. This card's in better shape than the Cashman one. This guy went from having the most exciting card to the most boring card. That's Phil Roberto in 74 O-PEE-CHEE card, and then his 73 O-PEE-CHEE card has him taking a punch at Billy Smith. Come on, he goes from the greatest card to the worst card. Oh, Phil should have gotten more fights. Truth was, he wasn't really much of a fighter. He was injured in 73-74, played like 15 games. Played 7 more before going to the Detroit Red Wings, Kansas City Scouts, Colorado Rockies, Cleveland Barons, finally the Birmingham Bulls in 78. So he bounced around a lot. Not exactly a goal scorer. He did win a cup with Montreal in 71. And when he left St. Louis, he was traded with a round 3 pick in the 75 draft to Detroit for Gordon Red Berenson. Berenson was not a bad player. So I'm going to say St. Louis won that deal. Montreal traded Roberto to St. Louis for Jim Roberts. Again, Jim Roberts also won a cup with Montreal. A couple of them. He was part of a line with Bob Gainey. Roberto got traded quite a few times. So next up we have the 1970 10 goals, while LA scored 6. Dennis Hall had 4 points, and Tommy Williams for LA had 4 points. So it wasn't exactly a high-scoring series, mainly because of the goaltenders. The LA Kings had Rogie Vachon, who's in the Hall of Fame, and Chicago had Tony Esposito, who's in the Hall of Fame, both of which used to be Montreal Canadian goaltenders and won a cup in Montreal. And then we also have the semifinals between the Philadelphia Flyers and the New York Rangers. This one also went 7 games, with the Flyers coming out on top. Flyers scored 22 goals and the Rangers scored 17. Rick McLeish led the Montreal Canadiens defenseman Pierre Bouchard. He, of course, won 5 Stanley Cups with the Montreal Canadiens. But then injuries took their toll on his body. He was a big guy at the time. He was 6'2", 205 pounds, which was considered large back then. I remember seeing him get in a fight, and he just got cut up real bad. And I think it was against the Boston Bruins. But he was known to be a tough guy. Not many guys wanted to fight him. Made a comeback in 79 and played over 100 games with the Washington Capitals. Not a goal scorer by any stretch of the imagination. Montreal had sent him down on waivers, and Washington was supposed to pick him up and then give him back to Montreal. There's some kind of weird deal with Pierre Bouchard, and the league stepped in and awarded him to Washington at the time. So now 1974 is the year that the NHL expanded. They have the Washington Capitals and the Kansas City Scouts. This is the Washington Capitals entry card when they entered the NHL. And at the back you can see who they drafted. And I'll tell you, there's not a lot of big names here. For gold, they got Ron Lowe and Michel Belhumeur from the Flyers. It's like there's nobody who's any real... They're all like third, fourth line guys or guys who might not be in the minors. Back then, NHL teams protected A lot of players. Only troublemakers and minor leaguers got on the draft list. Not like today where the Vegas Golden Knights got a lot when they drafted, when they came in the league. And then they toned it back a little for Seattle. Because the Vegas Golden Knights, they dominate. It's not for an expansion team in any league to be that good so fast. But I think they had to, because they had to make sure that Vegas survived. If Vegas was doing poorly, then people wouldn't come see the team. I think that was the thinking at the time. Then we're going with a rookie card here from defenseman LA Kings, Larry Brown. I didn't notice this, but this has a huge crease in it. I didn't see that when I was picking through. But Larry Brown, before this card, he'd already played 90 games in the NHL with the Rangers, the Wings, the Flyers, before going to LA. Ended his career in LA. He actually was picked by Edmonton in the expansion draft. So I have his last card. But he never played for the Oilers. He instead went down to the Cincinnati Stingers of the Central Hockey League and the Houston Apollos. So he'd been traded from New York Rangers to Detroit Red Wings for Pete Stemkowski. God, Detroit made bad trades in the 70s. Stemkowski became a mainstay with the Rangers in the 70s. Traded from Detroit Red Wings with Bruce McGregor to New York Rangers for Arnie Brown, Tom Miller, and Mike Robitaille. So went back to the Rangers, and they gave Bruce McGregor, who was another good player. Again, Detroit lost. Claimed in the interleague draft by Philadelphia from New York Rangers, okay? And then traded from Philadelphia Flyers with Serge Bernier, Bill Lesick, Jim Johnson to LA Kings for Bill Flatt, Eddie Joel, Ross Lonsberry, and Gene Potvin. Hell, the Kings got fleeced. I know two of those guys, Flatt and Lonsberry were on the Stanley Cup teams for the Flyers, the first one anyway. Then he was claimed in an expansion draft by Edmonton Oilers from LA Kings. Never played for them. So, got traded a lot. Big trade there. Okay, moving forward, we got defenseman, Toronto Maple Leafs, rookie card, Bob Neely. This also has a slight crease in it. Didn't get the best of these cards, unfortunately. Bob Neely was a first round 10th overall pick in 73 by Toronto. And he was also picked round 1 first overall by the Chicago Cougars in 73 in the W, but he never played in the W. Played four and a half seasons with Toronto before going to the Colorado Rockies. And he was traded from Toronto to Colorado for cash. Never panned out. He had 1 year where he had 17 goals, 16 assists for 33 points, but he's minus 16. Just wasn't a good defenseman. Big guy though, 6 feet, 200 pounds. Just never panned out. Toronto made some questionable deals in the 70s, that's for sure. Toronto basically had one line. Lanny McDonald, Darryl Sittler, and Dave Williams, as well as Salming and Turnbull, with Palmatier and net was about the best lineup they had in the late 70s. Now we're going to the Atlanta Flames. This too is a rookie card. Left winger Jerry Byers. He'd actually been drafted in the first round, 12th overall by the Minnesota North Stars in the 72 draft. Played 24 games with the Flyers before going to the Atlanta Flames. Played 12 games with them before going to the Rangers for 7 games. Ended his career in Austria. I don't think he's worth a first round pick. That's for sure. His draft pick rights were traded from Minnesota with round 1 pick in the 70 draft, Chuck Leafy, to Montreal Canadiens for Danny O'Shea. So he got drafted by Minnesota, then he went to Montreal. Then he was traded from Minnesota with Fred Buster Harvey to Atlanta for John Flesh and Don Martineau. Minnesota got fleeced, because Martineau and Flesh never really played. Buster Harvey was the main guy in that trade. So interesting. Then we got the Pittsburgh Penguins team card. Jerseys of Pittsburgh were different back then. They were more blue, light blue than black. And on their team you can see they had Syl Abs, Chuck Arneson, Andy Brown, Dave Burrows was an all-star, Nels Benedict, Steve Durbano, who is a tough guy. Crazy guy. You should watch his hockey fights on YouTube. Vic Hatfield was a good, who came from over from the Rangers. Rick Kehoe came over from the Leafs. J. Bob Kelly. Jean-Guy Legacy. Lowell McDonald, who was a good player. Bob Paradas. Jean Pronovost, who was their second Penguin to score 50 goals. Ron Schock and Ron Stackhouse. No goalie. Interestingly enough, there's no goalie listed on here. Maybe Jean-Guy Legace is a goalie. I don't know. 299. Do I have that card? Nope, doesn't list their goalies. Kind of weird that way. And we have another rookie card from the Montreal Canadiens, right winger Glenn Goldup. It's got the Fu Manchu. He only played 6 games that year, and he gets a card. Played parts of 3. Played like in 3 seasons. He only played 18 games in Montreal, just because Montreal was just too deep, and he couldn't get ice time. So they traded him in '76 to the LA Kings, and he played over 250 games with the Kings. He had been a second round, 17th overall in the '73 draft by the Montreal Canadiens, and then he was a first round, second overall pick by the New England Whalers in '73, but never played with them. I'm surprised. He would have got more ice time with them probably. But yeah, he not a huge goal scorer. In 291 games, he scored 52 goals, 67 assists for 119 points. So, not bad, not great. See if I can find out what they got for him. So Glenn Goldup was traded in June of 1976 with a third-round pick who ended up to be a Doug Dirksen I never heard of. And he was traded, and Montreal got in return third-round pick, 49th overall, Mo Robinson, who was Larry Robinson's bigger brother, who played some preseason games. And then a first-round pick in '78, which turned out to be the 8th overall pick, was Danny Jeffrion, the son of Boom Boom Jeffrion, who never really panned out. He played some games with Montreal, but never panned out. Kind of a waste of a first-round draft, but Montreal had a lot of first-round draft picks in the '70s. Interesting trade. I would say LA won that deal, just because I know how much the other guys played. And finally, with this set, we have defenseman, Chicago Blackhawks, John Marks, rookie card. He had been a first-round 9th overall pick by the Blackhawks in the '68 draft. Took him a while to get into the big leagues, but he played right up until 1982. Played 657 games with the Blackhawks. He was a pretty solid pick. I'm not going to say he was a phenomenal defenseman, but a steady defenseman to last that long. Didn't play much in 81, 82, or 80. I think injuries took a toll on him, but not a bad pick. So there we go. 15 cards from the 1974 O-PEE-CHEE set. Phil Esposito being the biggest one, as well as Wayne Cashman. These other guys were not so great. And it's always nice to get these special cards they had, like the Capitals draft, the Penguins team card, and then the semifinal cards. They don't do that anymore. And then finally, I went next door to Villains. This is where Heroes gets rid of a lot of their other stuff. So for $5, I bought a binder, and it had the 1992-93 O-PEE-CHEE Premier set. So these are 93 cards. This is when Montreal won the Stanley Cup. It's one of the final years of O-PEE-CHEE out of London, Ontario. And it is the whole set. But it's a small set for the amount of teams. There's only 132 cards in this set, 42 rookies in all. So Bill Guerin's rookie card, Jason Woolley, Andrei Kovalenko, Oleg Petrov, Richard Smelnick, Dmitry Yushkevich, Rob Zomner, Igor Korolev. Robert Lang would be the biggest guy. Roman Hamrlik. Guy Hebert is the biggest goalie I've seen so far. Martin Straka, Michael Nylander, Steve Konowalchuk, Bill Lindsay. There's not a lot of big names in here. This is a very small set, 132 cards. And they're all here. Like, N. Rodin's got a card. It's like Dominic Hasek's in here. So I got a Hasek card. It's not his rookie card, though. I don't think. His first rookie card was the Parkhurst 92 set. 1992, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's in 7 sets. Parkhurst, Pro Set, Score, Upper Deck. Then in 93, he gets into Bowman. And then O-PEE-CHEE. It's like, oh, this is when the oversaturation of hockey cards came. And O-PEE-CHEE got out for a while. Teemu Selanne for the Jets. I'm not even sure if Gretzky's in this one. He must be somewhere. I haven't really taken the time to go through this all. It's a small set. So with 24 teams, because you have the Ottawa Senators, you have the Tampa Bay Lightning, like Reggie Savage, who I never even heard of. He's got a card. Kovalev, Brzezinski, and it only goes up to 132. Okay, so you get 132 cards, and then it goes with star performers. So it's another set of O-PEE-CHEE Premier. I don't know why they just didn't combine them all. But now you have Coffey, Gilmore, Denny Savard, Rowanek, Dale Hunter's right there, Sakic, Brewery, Messier, Housley, Fontaine. You flip it over again. You have Ranford, Fedorov, Hall, and Lemieux. There's only 22 cards in that set, and none of them are Wayne Gretzky. Okay? Then you go to the 92-93 top performers. You have Eric Lindros, Roman Hammerleck, Dominic Roussel, and Felix Potvin. These are the top rookies. Okay, so that's 3 sets in one for $5. But then I get the bottom of the box from O-PEE-CHEE, London. And then I get, what happens, I get another set. Same cards, the O-PEE-CHEE Premiers. Same guys. Other than this one. For some reason, card number 18 is not the right card. Card 18 should be Doug Smolek, not Dale Hunter. So they popped in a card there. Wayne Gretzky's not even in these sets. What the hell? So it's supposed to be Richard Smolek, which I think I have, so I can pop that in there. But everything else is the same. Like Brad Schlegel got a card. Tyler Wright. Dino Ciccarelli's in here. No, Gretzky. What the hell's going on? So I'm just looking through this, flipping through and trying to figure this out. Like, this is the premier set. Glenn Mulvaney, who I've never heard of in my life. Joe Juno's in here. Kasparaitis. But who the hell is Mike Needham? Or Stan Drulilia. Some of these guys I've never heard of. Niedermayer's there. So it goes all the way back to card 130, the checklist card. And then you go again with the all-star cards. And then the rookie cards. And then finally you get the top of the box. So there's 2 whole sets in here. Of each. It's not bad for $5. Well, minus 1 card. So I got 2 complete sets of the 92-93 O-PEE-CHEE Premier, as well as the O-PEE-CHEE Premier Star Performers and the O-PEE-CHEE Star Rookies. This is a bullshit set. In 1993, he got a scorecard, a lot of scorecards, both the American and Canadian ones. He got Stadium, Tops, Upper Deck, but he's not in O-PEE-CHEE. O-PEE-CHEE Premier, he's in 93-94, so 2 years from now. Because these are the 93s. Or sorry, these are the 92s. What am I looking at? Yeah, sorry, these are the 92. Oh. Why does it say 93 over there then? It says 93 here. Hey, that's what threw me off. These are the 91s, 92s. So these are the 1992 O-PEE-CHEE set. Gretzky doesn't have an O-PEE-CHEE card. He has a 91 O-PEE-CHEE. So I have most of that set. And then he also has, he's in the 93 Premier. What O-PEE-CHEE we're thinking. So that's definitely the strangest thing I've seen with hockey cards. But like I said, I have 2 complete sets. I'm pretty sure I have that missing card. I have it downstairs. But for $5, I'm not going to complain. So all you hockey card fans out there, let me know what you guys think about the 92 O-PEE-CHEE Premier set, leaving Gretzky out. Leave comments in the comment section. Until next time, this has been Hockey Night in Belmont.